It's about that time for us to.
Welcome to Ask the Good Doctor. For your health, we are here. Yes. Thank you for joining me on SiriusXM, Urban View, Channel 126. I'm Dr. laJoyce Brookshire, here to share gems about how to attain, maintain, and reclaim your perfect health. You know, today we are going to pay homage to the Queen of Soul, Miss Aretha Franklin. Oh, yes. I know it was a 10-hour funeral, but the tributes continue as they are deserved. And we are going to have an educational moment about pancreatic cancer, which ultimately took her life. In studio and on the phone, we've got a collective of women who are affectionately known as Aretha's Angels. And we, I have to say we because I am one of them, thank you very much, who handled publicity at some point or another for Miss Aretha during her stellar career, and namely through the Arista years, and one who actually handled the press for the funeral. I'd like to welcome Gwendolyn Quinn.
Hello.
Hello. Also here is the publicist who frequently switch-pitched with Gwendolyn, and that's following the Arista years, and that's Tracy Jordan. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you.
And Robin Ryland Sanders has been on Team Gwen from the beginning. Welcome, Robin.
Hello.
Yay. And on the phone, our former Arista publicist, Jackie Reinhardt in South Carolina, and Audrey Lacatus in Miami. Welcome, ladies. Well, we are going to share some of the greatest stories never told about our beloved Queen today and talk through our grief. You know, storytelling is a great way to process through the loss of a loved one. And it helps the grief process to move along to the final phase of acceptance. And I want to just say hello, hey.
Hey.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, Dr. Joyce.
Yes.
Dr. Joyce, yes.
I know, it's so funny for them to call me Dr. Anything, because, you know, we used to be Dr. Spin Doctors, which two of them still are, kind of, you know. But yes, we grow, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
we're in a very rare group. We are.
Yes, we are.
Yes. And with Miss Aretha's diagnosis, I know, having heard about it, it was a sad day for us all. Gwen, you were right there by her side, having heard about this, being her her publicist of record at the time, even of her death. So tell us about that time frame when she was diagnosed and going through these very challenging moments.
Well, actually, I was not there by her side when she passed.
I mean, you know, in a working relationship.
Right. I knew she was ill. You know, Aretha's very private. She didn't talk about her illness, and I didn't try to talk about it. If she talked about it, you know, I know with Tracy and I, she would share different things, but she really didn't talk about it. And I dealt with it like that. Because I think people have a right to their own privacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Aretha's the kind of person don't ask her a whole lot of questions. If she wants you to know, she'll let
Isn't
you
that
know.
the truth?
Yes.
How do we learn that, y'all?
Firsthand.
Woo, yes. So, Tracy, and how were you? Did you respond when you first found out she was sick?
Well, because I had gone through chemo and I had gone through radiation, she asked me a lot of questions about it. And started about like 9 years ago, and that's when she was first diagnosed with it. And it's amazing that she lasted as long as she did, because the pancreatic cancer is no joke. The lady that was just on before is so lucky that it was only stage 2 and that it was only through one lymph node. That is just amazing.
It is,
because that particular cancer moves through your body like that.
Yes, it does.
And Aretha asked a lot of questions. I don't think she did the chemo when she should have. I think she should have started earlier. But, I mean, who am I to say? She lasted that long,
Yeah.
you know? A lot of faith, positive attitude. Audrey always says that, you know, always keep a positive attitude about everything. And that is partially why.
Okay. You know, you bring up an excellent point about the pancreatic cancer moving through the body swiftly. And that's because our lymphatic system and those lymph nodes, there are internal garbage collectors And when they're in a healthy state, they can process the trash and take out the trash, no problem. But when they're in a weakened state, they can't. And then this is how sickness develops and disease develops. We've got joining on us our other two angels on the phone, Audrey Lacatus in Miami.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Jackie Reinhardt in South Carolina.
Hello.
Hello, ladies. So we were just talking about how we felt when we discovered that Miss Aretha was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Ladies?
Oh, well, this is Audrey. I was absolutely devastated. And, I mean, this is a woman that endured and overcame so much throughout her entire life and in her entire career. And to get that kind of diagnosis was just heartbreaking. She just didn't deserve it. She deserved to live a long and healthy life and enjoy her family and her grandchildren and her legacy.
And you know, Audrey, I know that you have to go. You're going to have to leave us.
I'm okay.
Oh, you okay? Okay, great. And Jackie?
Well, how I felt about it, quite frankly, was that I didn't really think that it would have taken her. I thought that, I guess, just given the grandeur of who she is and how she was, and she really never gave the impression of ever being ill in the time that I knew and worked with her. I'm seeing that there was never that feeling. I mean, Aretha may have had other phobias, but health was not really one of them. So
everyone in her family. I'm sorry.
Happen.
Go ahead, Tracy.
All of her siblings passed away of cancer.
Did they really?
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Irma,
Okay, you're right,
Cecil,
now that I think about
Carolyn.
that. Yeah.
So I think that fear was always there, that she was, going to get taken down by it. I think that was always in the back of her mind.
You know, and I can't ever remember even her having a cold. Lost her voice, yes, from singing hard.
Or screaming at you.
Yes.
See, I didn't want to say it.
Did Aretha?
She never yelled at us, right?
No, absolutely.
Ladies,
little bit.
angels.
I have to say, I don't remember her yelling at me. Not to say it didn't happen, but maybe I've just blocked it from my memory.
Yeah, you did.
I was so in awe of her. But yet at the same time, she never made me feel as if I was beneath her or a servant or subservient to her. She was very respectful in reciprocation of my respect for her. And I think that, in my case, I feel like when I first met her, and I met her at the end of, 1990, I replaced Jackie Reinhardt. And Jackie had already booked her on the Phil Donahue show. Okay, we're old. And
It's okay.
Oh my God.
It's all right.
the night before, she had to rehearse for a big Grammy special. And I met her. She was cordial. And I'm sure in her mind it's like, okay, yet another label girl. I got to deal with new people every other week, whatever. But then I started talking to some of her band and her bodyguards and her son, and mentioned that I was from Detroit. So the next day I went to pick her up at the plaza. And we get in the car, and I'm just pinching myself because, this was my first big job in the industry. And I'm driving down Fifth Avenue in a limousine, which, of course, we don't use limos anymore, but then we did, and with Aretha Franklin, no less, and I'm just pinching myself. So she says to me, so, Miss Audrey, I hear you're from Detroit. I said, yes, I am. She didn't ask me what school I went to. She didn't ask me what street I grew up in. She said, what church did you go to? I said, Greater Grace every Sunday. She beamed. She just beamed. She goes, Bishop Ellis was a good friend of my father. That, ironically, is the church where they had her service.
That's right.
Yeah, and it was
that.
Bishop.
And from that point on, I was in. And I know it was the same thing with you guys. She always had to have that one person, and I feel like it was always us because we loved her. And we didn't, give her a hard time when I always felt when people criticized Aretha Franklin for being a diva, who else can act diva-ish other than her? No one else has earned it the way she earned it. And frankly, I never considered what she did being a diva in a negative way. I thought it was her demanding the superior treatment that she deserved given the nature of her craft and the excellence that she gave on stage. You better bring excellence too.
Oh, yes.
Aretha Franklin said turn the air conditioning off and people roll their eyes and get all upset. She once told I think it was Annie Leibovitz during a photo shoot when we were at her house, And Annie Leibovitz kept complaining about how hot it was. We got to turn the air conditioning on. And Aretha looked at her and she goes, "You wouldn't put a Stradivarius in the freezer, now would you?"
Ooh,
I mean,
yes.
She was always quick with it.
She's
was
very
so
quick. Yes.
funny. I mean, she was funny.
She was funny.
But that's
Yeah,
what
completely.
The thing that people don't realize about her when they say she was a diva and she was this, that, and the other, and no, she was not. She was not a negative diva. She was a diva
perfectionist.
She was a perfectionist who demanded excellence, and that's what we
But
gave
she
her, and
gave
that's
it.
what we. That's
Yeah.
exactly true.
And that's what I loved about Aretha. You always knew where you stood with her.
That's for sure.
And with most recording artists is
That you don't have a clue.
You don't
Well,
have a
let me
clue.
tell you, we're just getting this conversation wound up, and when we come back, we're going to talk to each of the angels here about how they first met the Queen of Soul. I'm Dr. laJoyce Brookshire on Ask the Good Doctor, SiriusXM Urban View, Channel 126. Welcome back to Ask the Good Doctor on Urban View, Channel 126. I'm Dr. laJoyce Brookshire, flanked in studio and on the phone by some wonderful women whom I'm proud to call my sisters. We are amongst a wonderful club affectionately known as Aretha's Angels. We are women who handle publicity for Miss Aretha during some point in her career. We've got Gwendolyn Quinn, Robin Ryland, Tracy Jordan, and on the phone, Jacqueline Reinhardt and Audrey Lakatis. Now, since Miss Aretha's death, we've done a lot of talking amongst us, and I wanted to have this public discussion, though, about some of the things the public has never heard, perhaps. And this is important for us all, like I say, to process our grief. This is the spirit work of Ask the Good Doctor. We handle things for the mind, body, and spirit. This is the spirit work, and it's very much inclusive in what we do here. And so Miss Aretha was our beloved because there are not many artists who transcended time like she did. I mean, how many artists can you go home and put on their records? Like if you go home and put on Respect today, it sounds as good as it did in 1968, okay? Like it did in 1968. That's incredible.
60 years, a 60-year career.
That's incredible. So, Jackie, how did you first meet? Well, let's go in order. Here, so
I'm the oldest.
Oh no,
Yeah.
in terms of work. Okay, Tracy, that's
with
okay. Go
Tracy.
ahead.
I am the oldest in this group. The first time I met Aretha, I was 16.
16.
16. I was with a friend, and they brought me over to this townhouse on the Upper East Side in the 80s. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, we're going to my friend Ted's house." So I'm like, "Okay, fine." So we go up, we walk in, and this woman walks out of the kitchen, and it's Aretha Franklin. And I, fall on the floor. And she's, giving me the once-over, "Who are you? Why are you in my house? What are you doing with my sons? Who are you?" So that was the first time I actually met her. The first time I actually worked with her was on the set of the Jumpin' Jack Flash video. I was at Arista Records. And I walked onto the set, and Aretha's hair was spiked out, and she had on a black and white zebra pinstripe, spaghetti strap cat suit, and black lipstick, and Keith Richards, Ron Wood, Cecil was still alive, Irma was still alive, Karen was still alive. I walked on the set, and I was with Abby Konowich we were all at Arista Records.
Okay.
And I looked at her, and she gave me the up and down look like she always does when she first meets you.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "Oh, Miss Franklin, you know what you really need with that outfit is a black leather jacket to set it off." And she was like, "Okay." So I grabbed Abby's credit card. We drove to Bloomfield Hills Shopping Mall to the Wilson's House of Leather and Suede. I bought 5 different jackets. Drove back. Meanwhile, Keith Richards, Ron Wood, and Cecil are in a trailer somewhere doing God knows what. I don't want to know. They were all hanging out together. And Steve Jordan and actually Whoopi Goldberg were there, too, because it was for the film.
Uh-huh.
And we walk back, and I bring her the leather jackets, and she picks the motorcycle one that she's wearing in the video.
Uh-huh.
So Whoopi had to leave, so we grabbed Steve Jordan, and because he had dreads, because we needed a shot of him because we had wasted time. So we took him, we put yellow tape around his sneakers because it looked like Whoopi's sneakers. He had the dreads. We put the Whoopi costume on him, and he was in the background, and we finished the video that way.
Oh, my Lord. The tricks that you have to pull, right?
Yep.
Jackie, tell us all about your first meeting.
Oh, well, my first meeting would have been 1989. I would have been 29 years old. She pulled up to the front of the Arista office at 6 West 57th Street.
Yay,
Tour bus. And she got out in a pair of flip-flops, Nike flip-flops, the type that you swing in. She came to the office, and she made a point of telling me her telephone number and then made sure that I did not give it to anyone else in the office.
Right.
Like they didn't have it,
So
but whatever.
that began the balance, the dance that you do when you are in the circle of Aretha.
Yes.
In the sense that you do recognize that you are working with someone who is most worthy of all of the acclaim and the work, because you are, of course, used to working with artists, and therefore that's no question of what she is and who she is in that sense. I appreciate Clive's comment that he said that at every moment that he was with her, he recognized that it was history.
That's right.
That he was there. And that is how you felt with Aretha. I felt that way when she called just to talk about boys. I mean, on a Saturday in the afternoon, and she'd wander off into that conversation about, well, what's going on?
With you. That's right.
With you. And then, and you learned early at what time to begin calling her, because she told me don't call until her soap operas
Go
off.
The soaps, yep. Her and Luther.
So, yes, very much so. So those were the things, and you had to also just be in balance in that while she was that diva, that you couldn't be that diva.
That's right.
In terms of your relationships with people, because it required you to almost be egoless, because you had to also have a compassion for the people that you were working with, because you would definitely make them hit a certain bar. And,
yes.
And it could be an expensive bar, too, So.
Yes. Well, the first time I got to meet Miss Aretha was, I believe it was the day that Jackie first met her, because Jackie said, we're having an impromptu luncheon for Miss Aretha at Arista. You all drop whatever you're doing over there at Sheridan Broadcasting, where I was working at the time, and get over here and have some lunch with Miss Aretha. And so I did, but my first working relationship came years later at Arista, when we were doing something for her at the Harley Davidson Cafe. And honey, when the Queen was in town, it was all hands on deck. So the whole department is initiated. Somebody's guarding the door. Somebody has a list. Somebody's getting the food. And when they announced that she was on her way to the room, we all had champagne, and I put my glass down, and my butt hit the champagne on the table and knocked the glass over at the Queen's feet. I scoop up her gown, grab her hand, have her step over the champagne, snap my finger for the waiter, sit her down at a table, snatch her crudité off the table, and put it in front of her, and refused to let any photographer take her picture while she was eating from her tray. And the next day she called Clive and said, I want to work with laJoyce. I was like, after what happened last night? Oh my Lord. Okay. So that was my first meeting. So Gwen.
Audrey may want to go.
Audrey said hers.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, so I felt like I already knew Aretha because Jackie and I were roommates at the time, and she had talked about Aretha so much, so I already felt like I knew her. So when I arrived at Arista, laJoyce, you were working the project. Yeah. So when laJoyce left, I was, then in charge of the project, but I don't really recall when we met. She remembered our first meeting. I had short hair. Clive introduced us. Mm-hmm. And I think it was on a project that she was working. The thing about Aretha is, even if she didn't have a current record out, she was still called. She still had publicity needs, and you still had to take care of it. And I think we kind of met that way, opposed to her having an active project out.
Okay. Robin?
It's funny. I don't remember our very first meeting, and I worked with her unlike the other angels. I started working with her post her being with a major record label. So at the time, it was Gwendolyn and I, the girls. She would always call the office for the girls. And it wasn't necessarily confined to just record label business.
Yes.
It was all business all the time. So, sometimes when you are working in the midst of a storm, you don't realize until you get out of the storm how fierce but wonderful it can be.
All right.
And she was just, when I think back on the time that I worked with her, which was almost 10 years, I mean, she really exposed me to things that I never would have been exposed
That's
to.
right. That's
and
right.
I appreciate it so much. But when you are in that whirlwind,
That's true.
for me, I was not thinking, this is history. This is Aretha. It was Aretha.
Yes.
It was Miss Franklin to me.
Okay.
But all I remember are calls and voicemails throughout the night.
Oh, my gosh.
Coming in the
And
morning.
then she learned how to text.
Oh no, Tracy Jordan started the texting
You
and
taught
the
her how to
Facebook.
text?
I did. And, Aretha had beautiful hands.
Yes.
And she never let anybody manicure her nails. She had to manicure them
Yes.
herself. Well, her texting with her nails would often lead to mistypes
Yes.
and typos on the email, and you would have to sort of like turn it upside down to figure out what she had said to you, remember? And I started her with the exclamation points and the question marks because she copied what I did, but okay, it was my fault.
Well, at first, we all know, all of us, that it was the faxes.
Yeah,
Oh my
It
gosh,
was a fax
that's
machine.
right. The
I'm
fax
sitting
machine.
on
She
the
says,
fax.
I'm sitting on the fax. I'm waiting on that fax, Gwen.
That's right.
Miss Franklin, do you have paper in the fax?
Wait, and then all of the phone calls, when you say the phone calls at night, what she do, she stay up all night and
Yes.
watch television,
Yes.
and she blow up your email, your voicemail. LaJoyce, I know you're not there, but it's 2:34 a.m. and I am watching E! Channel. I need you to find me that coat. Oh, I know I just called a few minutes ago. It is 4:24 a.m. and I need that
She
show
was calling the
shoes.
office.
All calling
Yeah.
the office.
Yes.
And then when she finished blowing up my phone, she called the assistant. Listen, you need to pass this message. Perry would come in and say, what in the world? She up all night watching TV, giving you a shopping list. But yes, and you better get to tracking. So Perry, here you go.
It's funny when you mentioned the phone number, though, because I think for all of us, we were the one person at the label at any given time that actually had her phone
That's
number. I
true.
mean, Clive would literally call my office.
Right.
I don't think Clive would have known who I was if not for Aretha Franklin. And he would literally
She
call
changed it every other week.
That's
She'd
true.
change it every other day sometimes.
Right.
And she would always
And
call
she'd also
me.
tell you not to give it to any.
Oh, she
I
would make
knew
it
that,
clear.
But she would call me to say, okay, here's the new number. Of course, I knew I could give it to Clive, but that was it.
And
Clive
Tony
would call
Anderson.
me.
And Tony Anderson.
No, during my tenure, it was just myself, Ken Levy, and Clive. So I had to talk to the retail department, the radio department,
Okay.
marketing department.
Yes.
They said, just go see Gwen. She'll get an answer
She'll
for
get an
you.
answer.
Exactly.
Right.
I think she did that by design because she
I
Yeah,
agree.
you were like her
I do too.
gatekeeper.
Yeah.
elevate our status as well. She
Yes.
liked us, and she
Yeah.
wanted
That's
us
true.
to do well. When I left Arista, she sent me the most wonderful gift. I'll never forget it. She sent me this giant, old-fashioned English picnic basket.
Oh, yes, I
Her
remember
basket with
those.
China plates. It had
Yes.
champagne. It had the food, and I mean the red checkered tablecloth. But she was very considerate. I don't think there
Yes.
was,
She was.
anything that she did that wasn't thoughtful, and she knew what she was doing. And
She
people,
was.
People gave her so
Yeah.
much crap because
Yeah.
they thought she was just being crazy or erratic, and they just didn't understand her. That's all there was to it.
And when I left to write books, and I did the Soul Food book tour. And my lovely Tracy here gave me the best book signing party ever at the Motown Cafe where she was. Had my name outside of a marquee that was so big it scared me. I was afraid to go in. But Miss Aretha sent me a set of cross pens, and I was just like because that is just like so journalistic, and that's the writer, the old quill and scroll. You know, she sent me those cross pens, and when I saw her recently at a concert I went to and took her some yellow roses, and I had a book for her, some books for her that I had written, and she pushed them back to me and she said, don't think for one second that I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
and that I
she
haven't read your
definitely-
books. And I was like, oh my God, I just want to melt.
She was very generous. I
was.
can remember all the gifts that she used to send, the
Yeah.
wonderful gourmet food
Food
baskets,
yes.
meats, I mean, just seafood, just all kinds of stuff. She was just really just amazing in that way.
Yeah.
So, when speaking of, what is one of the most amazing or the funniest things that has that happened while you were working her? Jackie, you have a funny story.
Jackie has, I think, the most
I
classic.
think Jackie does.
story.
Okay, so my story is
Just the way you started out.
Aretha, I'm planning your press junket for your headlining at the JVC Jazz Festival, Carnegie Hall. It's a big date. You're staying at the St. Regis. When you come in, she's already made sure or has asked, is there air conditioning in the lobby, Jackie? And I said, well, Aretha, I'll have to find out. I don't know if they can turn off the entire lobby air condition prior to your coming. Well, if there's air condition in the lobby, then I will not get out of the car. I won't come through the lobby. So I called the front desk, and I have to find out how many feet is the front door to the lobby to the elevator. They tell me, and then I think, well, that's not going to work. They're not going to turn the air conditioner off. I take her instead through the kitchen.
How about
I've
that?
been waiting for hours because she comes on the bus, and so I'm getting updates as to what time she's coming in. We've had a long term in terms of planning the whole thing, and on
Yes.
the entire floor, I've got several outlets. We've got CBS, we've got WBLS, all of the major media is there, and they're in separate rooms. We're on the 6th or 7th floor of the St. Regis, and when she comes now to the side and I'm taking her through the kitchen, I'm being told by her bodyguard that, what floor are we going to go up? And I said, we're going up to the 6th floor. And he said, oh, well, you know, Aretha's not going to go above the 4th floor. I said, well, why didn't you tell me this in all our planning for the week that Aretha will not go above the 4th floor? We turned off air conditioning. We are not coming to the kitchen. Just avoid air conditioning. We know what rooms have to be temperature. There is no air conditioning in any of the rooms on her floor. There is none in the hallway. But you now tell me she won't go up to the 6th floor. So I take electrical tape, and as she comes to the door, comes through, and I say, hello, Miss Franklin, we're going on up to the air. And she says, where are we going, Jackie? And I said, as I stand up, I take the electrical tape and I put it above the lights on the side, up above all of the panels so you can't see the floors, you can't see the panel lights, none of that. I stand with my back to the panel. I press the 6th floor, and I said, we're going up, Aretha, we're going up. And the door closes. When we get on the 6th floor, we go out. I take her into the first room. It's CBS. Does the interview partially. She all of a sudden, she can't see the floors because all the windows are closed. All windows are closed. It's just cameras, everyone's room. So I don't know how she knew, but at some point she began to feel wobbly. And she got up, and as she came to the door, she started to shake, and she said, I just can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And that was it. End of interviews. I had to tell everyone that we had to cancel for the day, that Aretha was no longer doing interviews. She said, don't play me, Jackie. Don't play me.
Well, you got to tell her what happened with Clive. Oh, my God.
So, end of interviews. Aretha goes back to her hotel. She's at the Four Seasons. And then I get a call from Clive, and Clive says, oh, Jackie.
Yeah.
Aretha is mad at you. And I said, oh, Clive, I don't know. And I tell him the thing. He said, well, don't you know? Don't you know what happened? I said, no. He said, we gave a party for her after one of her performances at Radio City. And it was at the top in the Rainbow Room. And everyone was there, Jackie. Teddy Pendergrass was there. I know you walk in there. All the people were there. And Aretha never showed up. Because she was too afraid to come up that
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I said,
right.
well, Clive, well, why
was the
is
World
that
Trade
not
Center.
in her file?
That's right. Oh, yeah.
How is it no one told me that until now? Well, I suggest you go out and buy her a gift.
And let me tell you, the
So
best
I
thing
went
in the
to
world was
Bergdorf.
Tiffany's or Bergdorf's across
I
the
went
street,
to
right?
Bergdorf, and I bought perfume, and I had it delivered to her hotel. That night, she did Carnegie. We all went. And the first person she thanked from the stage was me.
Yes.
And she went on and she thanked Clive, and she went into her show. And he said, oh, Aretha was great tonight. Anger does her well.
Anger does her well. Yeah, and you know what? So does adoration. One of my fondest memories is we were going to, she was hosting the R&B Legends, and we were staying at the Waldorf, and we came downstairs, and she had on full Queen regalia, honey. Fur, gown, white and gold, and we're coming through the lobby, and there was some gathering for like some Ernst & Young Wall Street types, and it was all white men in navy blue suits and wingtip shoes. And somebody said, oh my gosh, there's Aretha. And these white boys were like, Aretha, Aretha, Aretha. And they parted like the Red Sea, honey, for Aretha. And she walked through nodding at them. And I was trailing behind her, glad to be in the mix.
To be in the mix, right?
And she was doing her pageantry wave, honey. And then somebody said, can I get a picture? Can I get a picture? And she stopped cold. And everybody froze like, oh my gosh, what's she going to do? And she said, one photograph. So I guess designated white boy stepped up and they snapped the picture and she nodded. He kissed her hand and we nodded and they parted like the Red Sea all the way to the front door. And I thought, wow.
Yes, a force.
Wow. But music transcends color.
It really does.
It does indeed.
I remember for me, I have a lot of funny stories. Some I cannot share.
Then you know what? You're going to hold that thought until we come back from a break, and we're going to come back with some more stories about Miss Aretha and her angels. I'm Dr. laJoyce Brookshire on Ask the Good Doctor. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Ask the Good Doctor on SiriusXM Urban View, Channel 126. I'm Dr. laJoyce Brookshire, sitting with the women who are affectionately called Aretha's Angels. So Gwen was about to tell us a funny story because she's got so many.
Well, it's not necessarily funny, but it just showed me how much faith and confidence she had in me. When Luther Vandross passed away, she called, she said, Gwendolyn, I'm going to bring you to Detroit. I want to do a memorial service. He was still living, very sick though. And I want to do a service. I'm going to bring in ba, 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 ba. I need you to come and run all the press. I said, okay, great. I came out there, had the press from all over the world there to do, participate. And then, so all the artists was like, where's sound check? What are we going to do? What are we going to sing? Who's the production person? So Aretha was leaving out of the church. And I said, oh, Miss Franklin, I said, I need to talk with you. I said, who is the production person for the event? She turned around with her fur and she said, you. She said, you are the production person. And then the other guy that worked at the church, he said, oh, honey, this church is old. You're going to need generators. He said, we need a production company. And
Mount Bethel,
like,
right?
A truck. No, it wasn't Mount Bethel. It was another church.
Okay.
And I just was I mean, I had to do all of this the same day. I had to get production people in place. I had to, we had to get generators because he said, oh, this performances. I'm not going to get through these performances. The lights are going to go out.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we don't have much time left. Tell me, what's your favorite Aretha song, Robin?
I Never Loved a Man.
All right.
The Way That I Love You.
Yes. Gwen?
Gotta Find Me an Angel.
Yes.
It was written by Aretha, and it's so personal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, most songs that people hear from Aretha, they think Aretha wrote the song because she puts her signature on it. But that was one song
it.
That right. She wrote that song, and I just love it. She was talking about her sister, Carolyn.
Audrey?
I can't even pick one favorite. There's so many, but all I can say is I hope that they will release the documentary film that Sidney Pollack directed.
Oh my God!
When
Yes.
they taped the Amazing Grace album, because that album is still in heavy rotation.
Yes.
On my list, but I love her version
Her
of Mary.
highest selling album.
Yes. Okay, Jackie? What's your favorite?
The Amazing Grace album.
Yeah. Okay, Tracy?
I mean, my mom's from Detroit, so I've got to go with Freeway. I love that song. Anytime it comes on, it just makes me smile.
Yes.
I mean, I love all the Aretha songs. She could sing the phone book, I'd be very happy.
Yes, indeed.
But Freeway is just so special. It's about Detroit. It's, it's Detroit's theme song. So anytime I hear it, we were there for the funeral and we were driving down 7 Mile Road and the people were
Cadillacs.
Oh my God, with the pink Cadillacs and the people were blasting
moment.
that song and they were just on both sides, and Gwen and I were looking out the window and they had signs and they were singing and it was just such a great homegoing.
It was.
It really was.
It was long. It was long. But, and that's what I was.
She said be ready for an extended throwdown.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
That
was.
My lasting impression of the funeral, and I want you all to chime in on this, was that one thing that we were clear about, it was definitely a service befitting a queen. And
that was the intent.
That's right. And if you didn't know, you did come to find that she was undeniably a daughter of the church.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
Period.
Yes.
And she was unapologetically
Yes.
black.
Yes, she was.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Yeah.
And what were your impressions, Gwen, of the service?
I had a few problems, but I thought it was all the people up there that she loved.
Yes.
I mean,
that's
we
the
could have
truth.
had a whole nother group of people up there as well, but I
Yeah.
thought those people really represented her life quite well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it also showed the depth of her reach.
Yeah.
Of
Yes.
like young
Scope,
to
yes.
gospel to
Yes.
urban to like,
Country.
the whole to country to everything that she touched.
Mm-hmm. Jackie?
I didn't feel like it was too long. That's what I keep telling
Yeah,
people.
It went
I
by
asked
fast.
someone-
It went by
I
fast.
asked someone as I walked out of the church, what time is it? What time is it? Because I wanted to record it like 4:44, like Jay-Z thing out there. And they said 6:48. And I said, all
6:48.
right, 6:48
Yep.
is the time I'm walking out. And it was befitting her. It
Yeah.
felt like
Yes.
every minute was worth it.
Yes.
It was exactly, nobody spoke too long, nobody sang too long. It was right on it. And the music, I felt, was a wall of sound. I said,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I never understood what Phil Spector, what that wall of sound was about.
Mhm.
But that's what that choir felt like, a
Yes.
wall of sound.
Yes.
Like a train. It was amazing. I said to be there, and it was and I thought it was a culmination of the black church. I said, wow,
Absolutely.
if you've
Exactly.
never-
Yeah.
Absolutely.
if you've never been to the black church.
This was
and
it
you
today.
wanted to know what it was in its full spectrum.
That's it.
Well, here you go.
This was it.
Right.
Robin definitely didn't want to miss a minute of it. She didn't even come out her seat.
I certainly did not. Every time I went to get up, there was another speaker who I wanted to listen to. There was another singer. There was another production. And, I think for anybody's funeral that you attend, you want to get a picture of their life. You want to see who they loved, who loved them, and what relationship they had with whoever that person was. And I think for a celebrity, that's even more difficult because
Yes.
everybody thinks they know them.
Yeah.
But at this service, I felt like this was Aretha's homegoing service.
Yes.
You saw her family. You saw celebrities, but who had an intimate relationship with her. And it may have been Judge Mathis who talked about political things.
Yeah.
Or it could have been Pastor Caesar who talked about, girlfriend things, but and gospel and their appreciation of gospel music. It was just a phenomenal service, and she let everybody know she was the queen even in her death.
Yes, she did.
And one more thing I want to say, when Tracy and I was working with the family on putting the program together, everybody kind of jumped in and did a lot of different things, booked people. But one of the things that I was most concerned about was I knew the funeral was going to be long, and I was concerned about whether or not it was going to be able to be broadcast in its entirety. And when John McCain passed away, I know the networks was going between two funerals, and so I said, well, I better get it online everywhere I can, from the Washington Post to Essence, and we got it everywhere, and then CNN ran it and BET.
And SiriusXM.
So,
and
my,
whoop, whoop, Tracy.
and my thing was with everyone. I said, you guys are worried about 5,000 people coming into this church. I'm concerned about 500 million people around the world seeing her service. So that was my biggest challenge, I think, and I'm very happy that we were able to
Did a phenomenal
Listen,
job.
I'm glad we were able to sit together, and
Yes.
as we passed around 2 bottles of water, 2 granola bars, 2 bags of peanuts, a peanut brittle bar, and Jackie hijacked a Reese's peanut butter cup from the lady sitting in front of us.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm sorry I missed it, but I did watch the streaming for almost the entire day. And I have to tell you, the facial expressions of Bill Clinton, Jesse Jackson, Louis Farrakhan, and I also, having Minister Farrakhan on that stage was just a testament to
Spoke volumes.
Aretha's values
Oh,
her unapologetical blackness
Yes.
and her support of what's right in this world.
That's right.
Yes.
And her including him, even though he is of a different faith, just speaks volumes of who she was, who she is. I can't speak of her in past tense. I just won't. She will live forever.
Amen to
And I
that.
have to tell you, that picture that you guys, a lot of people are posting, there's a photograph of her, and she's wearing a crown, a little tiara, and she's
with the
holding
thing.
a scepter.
Yes,
a star.
that's from Vogue.
That's from Vogue, and that was a photo shoot that I did under my tenure at Arista, and I got this call from Vogue, and they were saying they were doing this, fairy tales recreation, and they said we want to cast Aretha Franklin as the evil stepmother, or as the wicked queen. And
Oh,
I was
no,
like,
no, no.
We can
No,
call
you
her the
won't.
queen, but we will not use the word evil or wicked.
Absolutely.
We're
Absolutely
talking
not.
about Miss
Never.
Aretha Franklin. Sorry, that's not going to fly.
Absolutely
One, she's
not.
a woman of God and of faith, and she will not
Absolutely.
be called evil. So we were so protective of her and her
Yes.
image, and it just was natural to
That's
us,
right.
I think, of all of us, to never let anybody disrespect her in print,
That's right.
on TV, or in any form or capacity.
And so
That's
I want to
right,
go to
Audrey.
everybody, and I want one word, the lasting impression of the queen up on you. Tracy,
Respect.
Jackie,
Respect.
Gwen.
Respect.
RESPCT.
Respect.
Respect. And I will say excellence as well.
Yeah.
I want to thank all of you for being here today.
This
Warm
was
my heart to have you. Oh my
fun. We need to
gosh.
We need to do part 2.
Oh my
part
gosh.
two.
Well, remember,
The
and
Aretha
we should.
Chronicles.
The Aretha Chronicles. the Aretha
Riri
Chronicles.
Chronicles.
Well, remember to follow me on Twitter at Ask the Good Doc, on Facebook and Instagram at Ask the Good Doctor, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ask the Good Doctor laJoyce Brookshire. And don't forget the Ask the Good Doctor live event happening in Las Vegas on Friday, September 28th at the Sahara West Library. If you'd like to be a vendor or if you'd like to come, register, send me an email at askthegooddoctor@msn.com. That's askthegooddoctor@msn.com. And I want to thank my team, the people who make everything go around here. Whoop, whoop. I got Tramel, my coordinating producer, Irving Wright, supervising producer, Michelle Joyce, the digital chick, and Dana, y'all, has graduated from assistant in training to assistant. Yes! Because she's awesome sauce. And we got Mahogany
right.
and Winter on video. That does it for me. Remember to let your eyes shine, cut back on the wine, get good food fast, and go easy on the greasy. Until next week, say a little prayer for our Queen of Soul, Miss Aretha Franklin. God bless you.